Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're live with Julie Turney, and we're going to be talking all about HR data and analytics today, and also looking into Factorial and how our features can really help gather your HR data and analyze it in the way you need to. So, Julie, thanks so much for being here today.
Hi, Kylie. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much, Julie. I know it'll be super interesting and also great to hear your perspective. We're going to be having a little bit of a chat about HR data, and then we'll bring Jimena on to show us a little bit about Factorial. So, hope
Yes.
everyone is looking forward to it. So, before we start, I just wanted to share a little bit about Julie and about Factorial. So, Julie Turney is a heart centric people experience architect with over 16 years of experience in the HR profession. She is the brainchild of HR at Heart Consulting Incorporated, a coaching firm she describes as the HR safe space. Julie created her firm as part of a healing process through her second bout of HR burnout, which I think, Julie, you can agree a lot of people are experiencing that and understand what you mean by that, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Right. And just let's see a little bit about Factorial for anyone who hasn't been to one of our events before. Factorial is an all in one software for people teams. Factorial covers time and attendance tracking, applicant tracking, performance reviews, and much more. Our mission is to streamline HR processes and give HR professionals more time to dedicate to what really matters, which of course is their people. So let's get started, and we're going to be discussing a few things about HR data. So, Julie, I have a few questions for you. And as I would like to call you an HR influencer on LinkedIn, I know you really talk a lot about HR data, HR tech, and why it's so important to incorporate data into your HR process. So, my first question for you is why does that data matter?
So, data matters because numbers talk and they tell a story of what's really happening in your organization. So, I like to think of it as how you tell your people story. And it's one thing to be able to tell the story through experiences, which is what your day to day interactions with your employees and your key stakeholders. What gives it weight and validation is the data. So if you're able to now take that data, the numbers that you have, or the data that you have, to really put your story together and say, okay, this is really what is happening into our organization, and this is what the numbers are telling us, and this is why we need to make these changes, or this is what we need to keep doing, and this is what we need to continue doing as an organization. The numbers can help to validate that. So data plays a very important part in human resources. And it's so funny because sometimes when you think about, a lot of times when you ask people like, why did you get into HR, and they go, because I love people but I hate numbers. But I hate to break it to you because HR is all about numbers, and we're interacting with numbers every single day, no matter what we do.
Yeah, and that's such a good point because I think really any part of the organization, data is so important, but especially HR because it's everything. You're really and it's the people within the organization that you're looking into. So
Mhm.
that's the heart of any company, really. And
Absolutely.
what are some key metrics that HR should be sharing with stakeholders, really assessing? What would you say are some of those main metrics?
So I think up front for your immediate dashboards, you want to be sharing things like your headcount information, obviously. And you also want to be able to share from a diversity and inclusion perspective your metrics in terms of your sexes in the organization, where they're sitting in leadership roles, how many men, women, transgender, um, LGBTQ, how many of these people are actually sitting in leadership roles, because that tells if you're really creating an organization of belonging. And I also think that in terms of your time to hire, those numbers really do matter. So, how long does it take you to fill a role? Which will then give you insights into the challenges you may be having with recruitment and filling certain roles. So if you can share that information, I think that that's very important as well. Your salary averages, I think that that's important for your key stakeholders to know in terms of how much money is going out and that you're using in salaries and bonuses. If you can give average numbers there, and then your leave data is very important. How much time do your employees spend out being sick? How much time do they spend being ill, being on vacation? Are they really taking that vacation? Because it's really important to make sure that you're creating a space of belonging and well being, and that you are focused on making sure that people are taking their time off. So these numbers, I would think immediately, your retention and your attrition numbers as well. Are people staying? Are people going? All of these numbers are really important for you to know in your organizations. And I'm seeing some really great comments coming up on the screen as well, helping with those numbers. Yes, if you can assess burnout in those absence numbers, I think that that's really important. If you can really tell if your people are burned out, or they're just totally stressed, or they're suffering with anxiety, and those things help you to create better well-being structures in your organization as well. So the numbers are tied to so many things, but those I think would be the immediate numbers I would talk about: your attrition, your retention, your absences, and your salaries. How many people are in your organization? How well are you creating a leadership that is diverse and inclusive? And if you can speak to those things, I think it would be really important and give your leadership a good perspective of what needs to be done to improve or continue to enhance the experiences that your people have in the organization.
Great. Thanks, Julie. And speaking of our viewers right now, I would love to know, after Julie shared some of those really important metrics, what metrics are you prioritizing and looking at? So if you want to share in the comments and let us know. And also just let us know if you have any questions for Julie. And also when Jimena comes on and shows us a little bit about Factorial, feel free to share any questions. We would love to hear them. And we'll get to most of them during, but also some after. So it would be
Yeah.
great to hear that. And well, Julie, we're hearing a lot about layoffs, mass layoffs. How could, in light of the situation that we're seeing in a lot of big names like Meta, Google, Twitter, etc., how could data have helped organizations to predict and prevent this crisis that we're seeing?
That's a really good question, Kylie. And I know we have been talking about it quite a bit as we were planning for this event too. But I think in terms of workforce planning, I think that that's such an important thing. And we hire because we have immediate needs to be filled. But does the fact that we have immediate needs to be filled mean that we should be recruiting permanent employees, or does it mean we should recruit contractors? So I think a lot of times people just have a need, and that's where HR really comes in, or recruiters and talent people really come in to say, okay, hold a minute, hold the phone. Yes, you may need this particular function to be dealt with, but is it a permanent role? Is it a temporary role? Is it a contractor that we could bring in to actually fill this role temporarily, get this project out of the way, and then we let them go? These are really important questions that we would hope would have been asked. And unfortunately, this shows the other side, or the ugly side, of when leadership doesn't listen to HR, because I'm sure that people ask those questions at some point. At least I want to believe, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt to those HR people, recruiters, and talent people, that they did ask those questions before they did all those mass hires, if they really needed those people in the workforce. I think when we also look at situations like the Great Resignation, which is something that happens every year, no matter what. Every year, people reassess whether or not the organization that they're in is the right organization for them. If they feel like their job, the role that they're performing has purpose. And if it doesn't, then what else could we do? And so when they're doing that, they start looking for other jobs. And I think someone I spoke to a couple of months back put it really well as not the great resignation, but more so like the great migration. People move around from jobs all the time. It's just that because of COVID, it made it a lot harder for people to make those moves the same way they would every single year. But we know as HR people, if we're following the data, that there's a certain point in time in the year where we start to lose people, and there's a certain point in time in the year where we start to look at our talent pipelines and we start to get new talent into the organization. And so, if we're able to forecast that, then it would preempt a lot of those situations where we have all these mass layoffs, mass terminations. It would have made life a whole lot easier if we'd asked those questions up front as we look at workload, as we look at jobs and purpose, whether or not we really need to have people in these roles permanently, or if we can just hire contractors, or if we can just have people in part time to fill these roles. It would have made life a whole lot easier. That makes sense.
Yeah, perfect sense. And I think, like you said, COVID and other things that are really impacting that are important to look at too, because outside things really have an effect on things that we're seeing in the workplace right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in terms of things that we're seeing in the workplace, um, and it's interesting that you said this is something that happens every year. People leave companies every year, new people join. That's a normal thing. And so I think retention in general is something that a lot of organizations want to improve. And maybe next year, or hopefully every year, it will become a big priority. And how can HR analytics play a part in that? How can people teams use those analytics to improve that retention?
So I think when we look at things like stay interviews versus exit interviews,
Mm.
we become more proactive instead of reactive. Exit interviews make us reactive, stay interviews make us proactive, right? And so when we look at the information that we get from employees during those state interviews, just asking a few simple questions. Do you feel like you're being properly utilized in terms of your skills and expertise in this job? Do you feel like you have, you know, purpose in this organization? Do you feel like your manager gives you opportunities to develop and grow? If you ask those three questions at least once a month, you'll be able to be completely reactive in terms of what you can do to help your organization either engage, enhance the engagement um, process in their organization, right? You exist to engage, to inspire, to make sure that people feel like they belong. And asking those three questions will give you enough information to be able to continue to look at ways to either enhance the employee experience. When we look at exit interviews, and I think a lot of times we hear employees say this all over and over again. Sometimes employees refuse to participate in the exit interview process because why are you asking me now that I'm going through the door? Versus if you'd asked me when I was here, it might have inclined me to stay. And that in itself tells you where we're sitting with this. So I think it's really important for us to show that interest while people are still in the organization, asking those questions, creating stay interviews more so than exit interviews so we can be more proactive instead of reactive.
Thanks, Jolie. And that's such a good point. Like you said, uh, many people might not want to participate because they wish that they had those types of things during their employment, like a state interview or some type of check in to make sure everything is good. So,
Mm-hmm.
a little too late, I guess, when it comes to an exit interview. You're not doing state interviews or at least check ins every once in a while.
Yeah.
Um, Well, and this last question I had for you will lead us into hearing from Jimena and
Mm-hmm.
hearing more about Factorial. So, how are people compiling their HR data? What tools are they using? What do you think most people are doing to to get it all together?
So I'll let the data speak for itself. I actually did a poll on LinkedIn, and I think I personally think I have the best LinkedIn community. um, I asked
You
a
do.
question of my community, and I said, like, guys, how do you compile, like, how do you get your data? Most people are using Excel. So a lot of people are using Excel to compile that data. And a lot of people are have no HRIS system, unfortunately. Sad but true. But hopefully we'll be able to change that today, right, Kylie?
Mhm.
But so many people are using Excel, or they're using Google Sheets to compile that data. There are a lot of people who are using HRIS systems, and they're able to export those reports and create their graphs. Some people actually have HRS systems that actually create that stuff for them up front, but they are not the majority. And this is the point that I make every single time as I interact with my community. If you are using an HRS system, that's good. And I give kudos to the organizations that see the importance of making the investment. But if you're still working out of Excel, which gives you so much room for human error, it can be a bit challenging, and it's also time consuming and tedious to create that data in Excel. So for me, I think that most of the people that we're working with or consulting through are using Excel at this time.
Yeah, and well, at Factorial, that's a word that we want to remove from our vocabulary.
Yes,
Excel.
I think that was
We're
like
trying.
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, we're
I
trying, and slowly
remember
but
that one.
surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is a great point to introduce Jimena, and I will bring her onto the live now. And Jimena is going to be sharing a little bit about Factorial and how we can one day remove Excel from our vocabulary. So, Jimena, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you for having me. Hi, Julie. It's so nice to meet you. This I was listening to the whole conversation, and it's amazing. Like I personally don't like numbers. I went into marketing because I thought I wouldn't have to see any numbers, and I was wrong. But you're right. It's our most reliable source of pretty much everything, and I think you will be able to see that Factorial is really going to help us, uh, like you said, to be more proactive instead of reactive, and to have all this data centralized in just one place. I don't know if do you guys want to say something else before I go on and share my screen.
Well, Jimena, let me just share a little bit about you. So, just so everyone knows a little bit more about Jimena, she is an account manager for the LATAM market here at Factorial, where she has been able to learn and have a deeper understanding of the importance of having all centralized information in order to get reliable metrics of the employees and make better decisions accordingly. So, Jimena is going to show us everything we need to know and kind of back up everything Julie said, and see some of those things that we've talked about, like stay reviews, and taking a look at data that is really crucial to make better decisions. So yeah, Jimena, if you want to take it from here, that would be great.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and share me.
Okay, great.
Perfect. So you
All
should be
right.
able to see me now, right?
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. So if you guys haven't seen our main dashboard for Factorial, this is it. So first, I want to go into our performance section. So for performance, we have three different sections. So we have review, competencies, and goals. Go ahead into goals. It's really up to achieve. Say time frame of 1 month or 2 months. You can see here I have different goals assigned. So for example, I'm going to go ahead into my attendance goal. So here it's active, and I can see from the top of all my employees, there is a total of 70% achieved. However, goals can be set up completely personalized, so I can set up one per employee. So for this case, everyone has an attendance goal of 30. So let's say 30 days, they have to be on time. And I can have even my current goals. So this is how they are. Let's say we can change it day to day or even week by week. And I can even see, like in one word, how my employee is going. Say at risk 2 out of 29, you could see this little graph is also going to be changed. All of this, so I have a total access
Oh, sorry,
because I'm an, yeah.
Jimena. I think that maybe it's the headphones, but the sound is breaking up just a little bit. Like it's a little bit cracky, the sound. And I think, yeah. And anyone who's watching, if you can tell us if it's good connection or if it's just the sound, that would be great. Let's see. Jimena, can you hear me? Oh,
I think she froze.
yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. I'm sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. Let's
That's
just
something like
see. Yeah, right. Let's see. So anyway, so what Jimena was showing us was a little bit more about the competencies that we can create on Factorial. So hopefully Jimena
that.
can hear me, and let's see.
Yeah, so even when we think about that, Kylie, while we're waiting
Mhm.
for Humana to come back, when we assess performance, again, sometimes people, it's a manual process for a lot of people, unfortunately, and so it's really great to see how Factorial gives you the scope to create the performance management process within the
Mhm.
platform, and that it will be very interactive so that the employee gets the opportunity to put in goals, the manager, they can work together to create those smart goals and put them into the platform, and then you can manage that process in an autonomous way. But as HR, we can see it's more transparent, right?
Mhm.
Because again, a lot of times when you're creating the performance management process, employees may think this process is one sided. Managers think it's too much writing and it's too much paper. When you put it in this digital format, welcome back, Jimena. When you put it in this digital format, it makes it so much easier for people to manage that process. I honestly do feel for managers who are, taking care of a head count of maybe 50, 60 people. And unfortunately, that's crazy. So you imagine managing the performance management process for 50, 60 people manually can be
Mhm.
really devastating and very time consuming and frustrating. And so automating that process for your managers and just giving them one central place to put all that information and for employees to go in and check through and be able to make changes to their goals if it's necessary to do that, I think is absolutely amazing for people to manage the performance management process digitally.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can only imagine something as simple, for example, as um, time off request. If that's done on paper or something, even though that's not, well, it can get complicated, but a process that's even more complex than that and doing it in a way that's manual takes so much time and is taking away time that could be used for something else, right? So really automating those processes and having tools that make it easier is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Jimena, welcome back.
No, thank you
um,
guys. I don't know what happened. You can hear me. Can you hear me good now?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it sounds a little
Perfect.
bit better. I think before it was like cracking a little bit. I don't know, maybe the wire or something, but it sounds good now.
Perfect. Let's hope it stays that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
share my screen.
Okay. And anyone who's watching, feel free to let us know. um, I think no matter how good you are with technology, there's always technical issues.
Oh yes. Every time.
Yeah.
Definitely. So can you see my platform now?
Yes.
Yep. You can see it perfect.
Perfect.
Mhm.
So how I was before here in my goals section, add goals to each of my employees. But let's say I want to do it like in a faster way. So I don't want to do it one by one. I want to do it per bulk. So here I can go to my custom tables, So for this example, I can create my custom table just once and all of my employees would have it. However, the information that I fill in Factorial will be completely personalized, and I kind of objective or some kind of I don't know, like project to 10 employees, so I can do it with no problem and only take a couple of minutes. All of this information in Factorial, you can add it via the platform or via Excel. You can have it all in the same place, and of course, you can graph it later. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to another section. So let's say I already updated my goals to all of my employees. I already have all of my information, but now it's time for me to see how all of my employees are behaving with different goals. So I'm gonna go into my competencies setting, and as you can see, my employees, I am grading like aspects. So let's say attendance, compliance, conversion rate, and client served. So here I can have that employee Ariel has these different grades, and I want to see in a more graphic way how he is doing. So just him as a person, or him just as one employee, how he is doing in a personal level. So I'm gonna go ahead into his profile, and I'm gonna go into the competency setting, and I can see in a spider web kind of graphic. So here I can see how he is. So I can see, like, for example, attendance and client served, he's doing okay. However, we have some work to do regarding the conversion rate and the compliance. So now that I have all this information just for himself, maybe I want to compare it with the rest of the employees. I want to see maybe this is an expected behavior for this month, or maybe he's falling behind in a little bit. So I want to compare it with the rest of the company. So for this, I'm gonna go back to this app, and I'm gonna go to my 9-box grid. So pretty much what the 9-box grid will do is that it will show me a more general view of how all of my employees are doing, and it's going to separate it into two axes. So let's say for this, I have performance and hard abilities. So if I hover my mouse over these points, I can see how my employees are. For example, I can see in the same case Ariel, maybe he's doing great in a hard kind of abilities, but he has some work to do in the performance regarding the rest of the employees. Or for example, Gustavo and Cassandra, they are doing amazing in the performance section, but we still have some work to do in the hard abilities part. So this way I can have a more general view of how all of my employees are doing between each other, and I can come up with actual action plans. So of course it will retain the decision to leave the company, because I am making sure that all of these sections, all of the professional aspects of my employees are being covered. So now I'm gonna go into my review section. So like I said, we already know how my employees are doing in the work or professional. But now I want to know how they are more in a personal level. So I want to get to know how my employees are, how they are feeling, because sometimes, as I'm sure you all know, my employees don't live solely based in performance. Sometimes they live because of the work culture. Maybe they don't feel 100% at home or 100% comfortable in their work. So this is why we have the review section, and I can have different kind of reviews. For example, here I'm gonna go into this section where I want to see how my employees are, for example, with their manager and with their peers. So I want to know how the relationship is with the direct reports, on how they are feeling with all of their peers, let's say in a team, how they are, this culture environment, how their day-to-day is going. So here I have different questions. So let's say, does this person communicate effectively with you? Or for example, how likely would you recommend working with this person as a colleague? Once I send this questions to all of my employees, I'm going to receive all the answers, and I'm going to be able to see them in a summary. So let's say I can see each question kind of in a more graphic way. So let's say Goose has a 450 in the first section of report reviews, or maybe they have sorry, give me 1 second. They maybe have an average of 8 for if this person helps you developing and improving your career. So I have all of this information in a more graphic way per employee, but maybe I want it more in a more easy to view section. So here I have it in raw results, and here I can see who reviewed who and I can see all of the information that they give me about their direct report or about their peers. Of course, we can have even open questions, so we can have more information about how they feel about their team or about their managers. And all of this information, it's free for me to download it in a text kind of way or in an Excel. So now that I have all of this information, I can see all of my employees, how they are feeling, and of course I can start making more action plans in a work environment kind of way. I don't know if up to this point, is there any question, anything that you would like to say, or can we go on?
Thanks so much, Jimena. Well, Julie, I would love to know if there's anything you want to add. I see someone just asked a few minutes ago in the comments, what is hard in the graph? And I think the most common way we hear it is like hard skills. Julie, would you say that's exactly what we're talking about here?
Yeah, so we're talking about the actual function that you're performing to work towards achieving the goals. So more hard than soft skills.
Right, right. Well, and one thing that I love about this is that, like Jimena showed us, we can see that that spider web type graph where we see the individual, but then also that 9 box grid where you can see where everyone stands um, in relation to one another, which is a
Yeah,
great way to see what some people need to work on, where others are doing well. So I think it's a really great tool that we have here at Factorial when it's used well and properly, and you're keeping up with it. It can really show some great information for managers and leaders to know.
definitely. I agree. And also, if you're a visual person, it's absolutely perfect.
Hmm.
Because what I find a lot of times is we struggle with those graphs or we struggle with the numbers in Excel. And then we have to create a convention code to understand what those numbers mean. But when you
Hmm.
can actually see it, like in that spider graph, it's very clear that when you look at the center of it and going out is where you expect the performance to improve, right? So you know that the further away you are from the center, the better you are doing in terms of working towards those competencies. The closer you are to the center, the more work that needs to be done. And I think once you explain that to employees, it makes it very easy for them to see clearly, okay, they're doing okay, or if they're not doing okay, versus numbers, right? But then the next important thing is to make sure that you have the necessary plans in place to help them close those competency gaps. And that's where your competency frameworks come in. So
Hmm.
very important to note that as well.
Great, yeah, definitely. Well, Jimena, what do you have next for us? Let's see.
Yes, of course. I just want to say one little thing regarding this graph. So let's say if we make, as you can see, the competency setting, it's really and super useful and super easy to see. So here I'm gonna go back to my assessment. Here you can only put the number, you can even put one comment. So we can easily do it, let's say one per month or one every bimester. And here you will have these little arrows that will be able to move you month to month or any other time frame that you choose. So you can
Mhm.
actually see how your employee is going. So maybe you can see, what he's doing so much better in compliance, but maybe the conversion rate is still going a little bit low. So we
Mhm.
have to put a little more effort into that. So it's a great
Yeah.
tool for the employee to be a little bit more self-aware, and for the manager to see like any kind of red flag or what he has to do to make our employees grow.
Great. Yeah, and I love that you can easily go from one month to the next to compare and see the difference in the improvement, hopefully.
Yeah, sure thing. It's actually a really useful tool, this competency setting.
Mhm.
Like I said, it gives more visibility to the manager, to the team leader, to the employee itself, so we can know where our opportunity areas are. So,
Mhm.
like I said, like we already have a more deep understanding of a professional kind of evaluation, how they are with their peers, how they are with their manager. But what happens when we want to know, um, for example, this time of year? No, we have different surveys, so we can say how our year was, how are we feeling in the company right now. So this is where we have the stay reviews. Uh,
Perfect.
like I said, it's a little bit more proactive rather than maybe a leave review, like you said a couple of minutes ago. Once that I'm leaving, you want to know why I'm leaving. Why didn't you ask me sooner? So
Mhm.
for this, we have also our stay reviews or our stay surveys, where we can have different questions. Like I said, we can have open questions, multiple selections, or maybe like a grade. So we can even put like from 1 to 10, how are you feeling? 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. We can send it to all of our employees, let's say for the end of the year or every semester. And once that we have it, we have really super useful analytics for this. So here, if it's an open question, you will see who answered, and of course, the different answers that they have. But what happens if you have multiple options? For example, have you ever thought of leaving the company? So I have two people that said no and one people that said yes. Of course, I can download this information, and for this one or two or three people that say yes, I can go and talk to them in a more one-on-one, a more direct conversation, so we can know how they feel. For example, from 1 to 10, how much you enjoy your work, and you can see how many people voted in any kind of number. For example, are you getting to clear goals? Everyone said yes. Maybe it's not the it's like what we want to see, but maybe we're not quite there yet. So we have different questions here, like I said, and all of this information, just like in my performance evaluation. Once it's finished, I can download it with no problems. And even if I want to see it in a more like in a more table way, like in an Excel friendly kind of way, I can raw results. And here I will see who answered and all of their answers. I think the summary and the graphs are much better for us because we can see it in a clearer way how we are. And once we have
Mhm.
this, of course, we can have a more clear way of how we are as a company and how we are working for our employees. What are we doing so they are actually happy at their work? Of course, not everything is perfect. We're always going to have some little fails. We're not always going to have all of our employees and happy, and people will leave. So we also need reports for that. So we need to know how many people are leaving, why they are leaving. Maybe we needed to make some hard decisions here, and we needed to let them go. I thought you were gonna say something, Kylie.
Oh yeah, Jimena, I just had one little question. Well, from someone in the comments. Let me get to it real quick. Um, Jennifer asked, "Is the survey anonymous?" And I think, well, in Factorial, we can make them anonymous depending on the topic, what the survey is asking. For example, I know like our ENPS survey, that's always anonymous. So can you share any more information about that?
Yes, of course. So once we set up let's say a performance review or a survey, in the general configuration, we can select if we want it to be 100% anonymous, or if our employees are comfortable giving their names, of course they can do it too. But this is something we can configure it from the beginning with no problem. Once
Great.
we set it up as anonymous, no one in the company, not even us, like from Factorial itself, can know who answered. So this is 100% anonymous, and our employees can feel a little bit more freely to answer how they truly feel. Sometimes when we know they are going to know, we give the answer that we think they want to hear. But with this anonymous
Exactly.
option, of course, we can be a little bit sure that they will be 100% honest of how they are feeling with the
Mhm.
company. So yes, we have the option to decide whether we want it to be anonymous or not.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's so true that maybe when we don't have an anonymous survey, we tend to, say what people may want to hear and not tell, say exactly how we're feeling. I think it's a great way to get real information, and in that case, if it's negative, it doesn't really matter who it is because it's something that needs to be fixed. So, thanks, Jimena.
That's
Well,
something that a lot of just to add to that, because I know
mhm,
it's something that a lot of managers can focus on, and so the fact that it's anonymous is really good, because
mhm,
for us in HR, a lot of times when you're giving feedback, the managers get more concerned about who said that versus,
mhm.
oh my goodness, that really is an issue. And what are we going to do to fix it? And that's really where you want managers and leaders to think, and fix their focus to, right? Something isn't right. Let's work to build a plan of how we're going to fix it. And so the fact that it's anonymous gives them, takes away from them even being able to ask us, well, who said it? We want to just focus on it was said, it is in the survey, this is how some of our people are feeling. Let's see what we can do to change this experience for people. Everything that we do is all about experience. And so we want to make sure that we're creating the best experiences that we possibly can for people while keeping them safe. Because
Mhm.
again, if that information is not anonymous, we open up our employees um, to the possibility that they could be discriminated against, or it could be used against them and they could be victimized. So we want to take away from that, eliminate that. We just want to get what people are thinking and feeling so that we can create the best experience that we possibly can for people. So when we take this data into consideration, we're looking at it with blind blind but open eyes and open
Mhm.
hearts, right?
Yeah.
As in, this is what we're going to do to make a better experience for the people that we serve. So
Right.
I just want to add
And
that.
yeah, thanks so much, Julia. And that's such a great point and good perspective, like you said. Uh, and just to reiterate what Julie answered to Valda in the comments about hard skills versus soft skills, why were the only hard skills shown on that 9-box grid? Like Julie mentioned in the comments, it's completely customizable, so you can add whatever competencies to that. So if you want to look at communication abilities or let's say teamwork, for example, those can be added, not just hard skills. So that's a great question. Well, Jimena, if you want
Yeah.
to continue and show us what you have next, sorry.
No, yeah, don't worry about it. So, like I said, sometimes, as Julie said, there are sometimes on the year that maybe people start leaving for whatever reason. So we need to know that information. So of course in Factorial we have our active employees and we had the chance to give them as a turnover. Once it's this employee is gone of the company, we can still have all of his information. So we can have like a history of how much time he was here from, all of his documents, everything. So with this information in Factorial, we can actually make reports about the turnover. So for example, here I have the full name of my employee. When did he or she started working with us? When was the last day? Even if they were part of some team. And there's also the option to put some comments. So let's say I'm going to I have to make the hard decision to let go one of my employees, and it's going to open a little tab that it's like comments. So I can say, okay, so he decided to go to another company, or the goals that were expected from him were not actually delivered, and I can have all of this information, as you can see here, in a simple table, in a simple data table. So everything is really hard to see. But what happens if I want to see the numbers? I just want to see, you know what, a company, I have the feeling that maybe October is a really hard month for us because in October a lot of employees start leaving. So if I want to see it per month, I can even have that option. Here I have, for example, 6 people left the company in November 2022 versus 1 people in October. So of course this is going to be updated every single month or every single week, every single time that we need it. Actually, here I have my refresher, my update button, so I can have all of the most recent information. If I have, let's say, even one or two people that leave the company every month, I will see in my graph all of the months, so I can have more clear information. All of these reports, you can of course download them and give them to the people or to the internal team. So now that I have all of the information, I know the goals, I know what they have to achieve, I know how they feel, and now I know how many people are leaving. I can actually analyze all of this information that I have in Factorial, so I can have more. I can create action plans. So emotional kind of way, like maybe they are not feeling like they can have like space to grow. Maybe they are not feeling really clear about what their objectives or what their goals are. I can actually start changing that. If maybe it's more of a work culture environment, okay, so maybe I have to look a little bit deeper. So what is going on? Why are people leaving? What are the comments once they leave, etc. And so I have all of this information, but I also need to know, of course, once people leave, I have to fill in that slot. my reports for ATS. So for all of my recruitment section, I want to know how many candidates I have per phase. So for example, maybe in this example, I have different phases for all of my applications. I have two people already in an evaluation, two people valuing the offer. Maybe they haven't signed it yet. I want to know why they haven't signed it yet. And I already have 15 people hired. And all of this information, so these are all potential employees for me, potential talent. But I want to know how many people are in each team. So maybe team number 3 is going to have 5 new hires, because maybe I have here, you know what, 5 people left the company. So I'm not really growing. I'm just like filling in slots in my company because people are leaving. So why are they leaving? Or maybe my team is growing, our company is growing in a really fast-paced environment. So of course, this is always a good option. So you know what, the marketing team is growing a lot, so we need to fill 3 positions for this year. Or my account management just lost someone, so I need to fill 1 position. So I can even have a more clear information about like per team what is working and what is not. And of course, even between managers, they can share best practices, so we can keep below these turnover reports, and actually like keep our people and make them grow within the company. As you all know, if we grow, our people grow, and we always want people to feel happy where they are. And even if they do decide to leave, well, of course they can do it. But I think it's much better when they leave, living with this sense of satisfaction and living happy where they work and all of the things that they did. Maybe it's time to go to another company, time to grow, time to focus in other aspects of life. But here in Factorial now you have all of this information. So I don't know if there's any other question regarding this or regarding reports, the competency settings, something.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Jimena. Yeah.
thank you, Jimena. I think this is a really good one. If you go back to the report that you were just go back to what you were sharing with us just now. Um, so for HR people, again, I think this is absolutely excellent to share the data with your key stakeholders in terms of, if you scroll down, you can see how long, which positions it is that you spend most of your time recruiting on. Because I think this is one of those things where, as HR people, sometimes we struggle with that question that sometimes you get asked, or if your leaders don't know what HR does all day, it's a great way to be able to explain to them where you spend a lot of your time and what positions are the hardest for you to recruit and fill, and why it takes you so long to fill those particular positions. Also, when you're looking at the teams, I remember going through some data some time back with a client, only to realize the challenge that she was having was the role of itself was a very difficult role to fill, because most people who are in that particular job either love where they are and they're very few and far to find that particular skill set, which then allowed us to start thinking about what ways could we possibly look at to build a robust talent pipeline that will give us those access to those people when we need them. And we were able to create a great talent strategy to build that pipeline going forward. The other thing too is, sometimes when you look at those postings and you look at certain teams and you wonder, why is it that the finance team always have to fill this particular position? Or why is it that the marketing team are losing so many people? And it gives you the opportunity as HR to now start to focus on the leaders, the managers, and making sure that they are properly coached to close any gaps that they are experiencing. Because it brings to mind something that I talk about all the time: leadership risk and leadership impact. A lot of times people are not ready for leadership roles, and they create a risk to the organization in that you start losing good people because they don't like this person's leadership style. They're not feeling like they're getting opportunities to grow. So as you're conducting those stay interviews or exit interviews, then that also starts to reveal into the data, because a lot of times you have managers that are good at the work, but they're not good at leading people. and risk and impact to the organization all equals dollars. The sooner we as HR are able to capture that and work towards creating good coaching plans to helping leaders develop and grow, then the better for us. And so being able to capture that information right here in Factorial makes it so much easier for us as HR people to do our jobs effectively with the data, because the proof, like I said, the data is everything, and you have the data right here in order to be able to do that. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks so much, Julie. Yeah, and I think these charts are really helpful because it really takes into account things that maybe are not the first piece of data that we would go to. And I love that we can see each, what was it, the number of qualified candidates per application. So you can really see maybe where people are spending more time in, and I love that we can really have these um, different types of graphs, and I think it's really helpful for recruiting teams and talent teams. Thanks, Jimena.
Yeah, sure thing. And you know what? Also, for example, these turnover reports, they might be like kind of the a dramatic kind of report. Maybe this is not what we want to see every day. But I remember Julie saying, like, for example, I want to know if my employees are asking this kind of absence a lot, or maybe now that the holidays are coming in, I want to know how many employees are asking, let's say, for a sick leave or for vacation or for a personal day. So all of this information, you can have it within Factorial, let's say for month, for week, for year. So you can have a more clear view of how your company is. For example, like I said, now in the holidays, now that everyone wants to, of course, live with their family and have their dinners and everything. So you can have more control of what is going on. For this example, we have the turnover reports and, of course, the recruitment reports, but you can have a lot of information here in Factorial. You can share it with your managers, with your team leaders, with whoever you need. So, like I said, you have a little bit more of control of what is going on and what are we going to do, so this doesn't affect our day to day.
Thanks, Jimena. Great. Well, thank you so much. And I think we got some great questions, Julie. I don't know if we missed any, or if Julie, if there's anything else that you want to add that we've already spoken about, or that Jimena showed. Any last thoughts?
Yes, I have lots. Where do I begin? Again, I think it really shows the importance of, I really want to reiterate the importance of having an HRIS system. And I think HR people really understand the value that they get with an HRIS system, but the struggle that you have with convincing leadership the importance of having an HRIS system. And I say the same thing over and over, which is the same way that you see the value of finance having accounting software, you should see the same value for HR to have an HRIS system. It's what we need in order to do our jobs effectively. And we've barely scratched the surface in terms of what you can get out of having a robust HRIS system like Factorial HR. But it's a great way for you to keep track of your employees in terms of comings and goings, in terms of performance, in terms of making sure that you are taking care of their L&D needs. And I saw that someone earlier in our conversation did mention about, being able to utilize a HRS system such as this to be able to manage your L&D needs in terms of making sure that people are getting the learning and development opportunities that they need to get in order to sharpen their skills and close their competency gaps. And it tells you who is using if you have LMS, who is using it, how they're using it, or if people are studying or whatever the case may be. It's a good way for you to be able to track their learning and development opportunities and being able to fulfill that. And in terms of the way that we report, I think it's important for us to look at what the future of HR looks like. And I know we talk a lot as HR people at different conferences about the future of HR, but the future of HR is definitely more data driven. It is more analytical. And with that, we need to make sure that we have the necessary things in place to help us report that data effectively to our key stakeholders to evoke change, positive change in our organizations. And if you think about just the way that we recruit now as we move into a Web3 generation, um, the metaverse and how it is going to impact how we interact. The fact that people can make investments in things like crypto and NFTs and other things like that is going to impact the way that we probably pay people and those different kinds of things. So it's really important for us to be on the cutting edge of wherever data or technology is going to take us in the HR space. And if we think that these things are not going to impact us, we're wrong. They already are starting to impact us. And so you want to be working with forward thinking organizations in the HR tech space who are creating the necessary tools to help you as HR, to help us as HR professionals to create robust, autonomous, fast paced processes that will be easy for our employees to utilize and give them the best experience that they possibly need. So, if we're still in that space of where everything is manual, whether it is that people have to fill in a vacation request form and then pass it around the organization before they can take vacation, or we are manually processing our payroll, manually processing our learning and development, our performance management, the way things are moving, it's going to be impossible for us to keep up with all the other stuff that's happening in the space of HR. So eliminate a lot of that stress that you're causing yourself right now and get an HRIS system that is going to give you what you need. Um, One of the things that I do love about Factorial HR is that it accommodates up to 2,000 employees. So it's on the cusp of small business and yet still enterprise. Um,
Mhm.
so you don't have to worry about how you move your people through the organization up to 2,000 employees. And I think that that takes a little while, as especially if you're in a startup space, in terms of growing your business. So these are things that I really think we need to think about as we become more data driven and we become more people centric. We want to have the opportunities to spend that time in the people, being able to be proactive and not reactive, and and this helps us to do just that.
Definitely. Thanks, Julie. And I saw a few interesting comments that I'll just quickly mention real quick before we finish for this session. One thing, and now I can't find it, of course, but it was about how we look at, retention, turnover. Those are very important. And then another one that someone mentioned in the comments is about training development reports, seeing maybe if that the reason why people are leaving is because maybe they don't have the training or the support that they need to completely fulfill their job. And I think that was a really interesting comment. So I think I had a couple other, but now I can't find them, of course. One person said Excel our worst nightmare at Factorial, which is definitely true.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but some great comments, and thank you, everyone. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Julie, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. And I did share in the comments a link to Factorial. So if anyone is interested in learning more about specific areas that we have, whether it's time management, talent management, we also have expenses. We have really anything you need. So, and the plans are completely customizable. So maybe one company doesn't need something related to time management. No problem. So feel free to check out that link to learn a little bit more. We offer a 14-day free trial and then also a free demo, which you kind of got a little glimpse of here. But if you want another one, feel free. So please let us know if you have any other questions. And Julie, is there anything you want to add, or Jimena also, before we go?
I'm going to give the floor to Jimena. I think I've said all that I could say, but I did see Dr. Valda Ali mention that data is
Mm.
critical for any organization
Oh.
to know how it is doing and where there is a need for improvement amongst other benefits. Absolutely. I think data is
Mm-hmm.
king. I say it all the time. Data is king. It's one thing for us as HR people to look at the experiences, but if we can have the data to back it up, that's where leaders will start to
Mm.
engage because you're using the data.
Yeah. And I always think without data, like let's say if things are going really well or if things are going terribly, if you're not looking at the data, you don't know why. In either case, you don't know why it's going well or poorly. So having that data in any case, any team, whether it's HR, marketing, sales, it's really critical. And so, well, thank you so much, Jimena, for showing us more about Factorial and being our expert today. And thanks so much, Julie, for being, well, another HR expert here and sharing your input and your feedback on some of
My
the features
pleasure.
that we have at Factorial.
My
Thank you so much
pleasure.
for having
Thank
me, Kate.
you.
It was great to know you, Julie. I think if you have any other question, please don't hesitate to contact us. And like Haley said, you can have a free demo. You can get to know a bit more of Factorial, so you can see all of the data that we can give to you, and of course, like get your companies to grow with us, so we can grow hand in hand.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jimena. And thank you, Julie. And thanks everyone for attending and watching, and feel free to reach out with any questions. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.